which comes with it, you know, the unfortunate cost of forgoing certain unique aesthetic practices just to compete on a global stage. But, you know, capitalism. It's a 90s out there. Got my scrunchie in, my high pants and my shirt. And I need to start filming because the sun is about to go down. I live in Canada. Sun sets at about 4:30 during the winter time. So not 4:30, but it's getting pretty dark. Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Khadija, your favorite or maybe your least favorite internet play auntie. Hello to all my returning nieces, nephews, and nibblings. If you're new, feel free to take a look around, suss out the vibe. My cat has decided to make himself known. You gotta be quiet, come on. I realize y'all have never met Norma. Norma, come here. Ah, isn't he so handsome? Such a handsome young man. Ah, look at him. Norma, you.
346 minutes later.
Alright, he's gonna be doing his thing. If you're new, feel free to take a look around. Sit on my floor and talk about whatever I feel like. Sometimes I chat with my friends and sometimes I do video essays, and today is a continuation of a video essay that I did on Sunday about pretty privilege. And for those of you that saw the entire thing, you know that I hated it. Sorry, my screen just went up because I have notes. But yeah, I wasn't happy and I was a little drunk. But either way, we're gonna do a deep dive now and talk more about not just who gets left out of these conversations, but also, I don't know. I'm just gonna follow my notes here. I promise it'll be riveting. There was still a bit more research here too. So I think one of the main reasons I realized why I hated this subject so much, or the subject matter so much, is because beauty is such an elusive topic to me. It's something that I can't truly define. And I see this like vision of this dartboard figure moving around, and on it is this pretty thin white girl, and it just keeps evading, but she's always in my field of vision. And like, I know that's how people define beauty, but in the deepest recesses of my soul, I don't believe that to be true, or to believe that as the beauty standard in my eyes. But I also do because I've been conditioned to think that way. So it's just like this, I don't know, this
dartboard of demonic beauty hauntings, I guess.
But besides my personal view, as I said, a lot of people get left out of these conversations. Like most socially analytical conversations that we have, conversations about beauty center whiteness. And that makes sense because, one, demographically, at least in North America, like in Canada and the US, I should say, white people are the majority, yeah, fine, whatever. But also for much of human history, you know, while Europeans were out here colonizing, the rest of us colored folks, and like for a while the Jews and the Irish, were just kind of like busy being oppressed, you know? This European takeover and subsequent expansion of the Great White Way, I don't know, it saw to it a sort of erosion of cultural beauty standards. And what I mean by that is like our own specific racial and ethnic beauty standards. And also, I mean, when you have like racial theorists like Christoph Meiners and Johann Blumenbach, she took her German for like a semester. I don't even know if he's German, doesn't matter. But when you have racial theorists like that believing to the cores of their white supremacist bones that the Caucasians were the most beautiful race, I don't know, it just makes sense that most white folks would internalize that and help spread that mentality to marginalized groups. And that struggle to like decolonize your mind is something I think a lot of people of color struggle with. On one hand, you have movements where people have tried to fight that mindset, and many of people of color have done it in the past, like with the Black is Beautiful movement of the 60s and 70s. You know, in that time, you had Black folks trying to elevate each other and themselves from the burden of white beauty standards and look at our own features and skin tone and natural hair as something to not only be marveled at, but to be seen as just as beautiful as Whitey on the moon.
Taxes taking my whole damn check. The junkies make me a nervous wreck. The price of food is going up. And as if all that crap wasn't enough, a rat done bit my sister Nell. With Whitey on the moon, her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon.
And then on the other hand, you have people or groups that will kind of assimilate to Eurocentric beauty standards, recognizing that they're not going away anytime soon. In an episode of Code Switch that I listened to actually, which if I title the video this, then it'll be inspired by this, or not inspired, it'll just be a ripoff, but it's not original. But Beauty is in the Eye of the Colonizer. They talked about how in 19th century Japan, there was this tradition of dyeing your teeth black, known as ohaguro. They said as the Western world became a economic and industrial superpower, you know, Japan wanted to compete, so they banned teeth blackening in the 20th century. But it's actually not the 20th century, it was like 1870s is when they actually banned it. And a couple of things I was reading pointed to the fact that one of the empresses of Japan was showing up with dazzling sparkling white teeth, and she was like,
"This is the new wave, y'all, get into it."
Slash wanting to compete on a global stage. I think this version of assimilating to Western beauty standards, to me at least, is more about keeping up with global superpowers at every level, which comes with it, you know, the unfortunate cost of forgoing certain unique aesthetic practices just to compete on a global stage. But you know, capitalism. And to my point, you can say that something like beauty is frivolous and how can lightly assimilating, or diet assimilation as I like to call it, make you viable as a competitive global power. But y'all, beauty is a commodity! The global beauty industry is worth $500 billion. Now, I should say that global beauty market, that $500 billion pales in comparison to something like the retail market or construction and agricultural markets. Honestly, when the numbers start to get that high, I like over $74,000 billion. What number? What kind of number is that? Poverty. What? I don't understand.
I don't understand, bitch. Don't understand. I don't understand, bitch.
I also just find it so funny, and this is another side thing, that we live in a world where beauty is so praised and like just highly favored, but people still like get ridiculed or you're not taken seriously if you pursue beauty. Like if you're a beautiful woman, like an Elle Woods type, let's say, and maybe that's just for white women. Looks like it's time for me to make it about race. Okay, the way I see it, for much of human history, again, intelligence was another thing that men possessed. And women, we used to need to worry our pretty little heads about things like the Age of Enlightenment and voting. But I view the fight to be taken seriously in the older days of women's liberation as a mostly white one, because I feel like Black women were fighting to be taken seriously whilst also fighting to be seen as having the same humanity white women were afforded just for being born white, you know? Okay, maybe I should stop generalizing and talk from my own perspective before y'all say that I be coming after white women in every single video, because that's not true. And even if it was true, like some of my closest friends are white women, okay? So they don't get offended. For most of my life, I was never able to see myself as someone who struggled with the if I'm pretty, I won't be taken seriously or seen as intelligent conundrum or dilemma. But that's because I did not grow up as a beautiful person. So to me, beauty wasn't even something that I could, you know, register as a possible hindrance to my mind, because no one was out here thinking I was beautiful, you know? Like, and that's not me trying to like fish or anything, I'm just stating the facts. As an adult though, who's experienced a significant glow up, one might say, and you know, starting a YouTube in 2020, hard, shameless. I've had to think about this beauty and intelligence thing from a few different angles. Like for one, I love a compliment, and it's nice to be told that I'm attractive. That's it, that's point one, okay? Moving on. Secondly though, I've always had insecurity issues when it comes to intelligence, because I think I've always just viewed intellects as like scrawny white dudes with glasses who quote Nietzsche and like incessantly use intellectual discourse as a substitute for emotional connection. And I don't look like that. So what gives me the black right to come on YouTube or anywhere and take up any sort of intellectual space, you know? If you know, you know. That's another point. These weren't really points, but like, anyway. My other last point about this beauty centering whiteness thing and why it's always been this kind of way is because there is a really cool video that I watched, again by Quove Studio. I will link the specific video below, where they were talking about how white people tend to do a lot better than a lot of other people on cross-cultural studies of attraction. And it's not because necessarily white people are more attractive, but it's because of a thing called a lack of repeated exposure. And that's something that I have believed for a long time, but you know, I just call it representation. You know, in the media, he says this specifically, that the neoclassical Caucasian female face is the most common face in media. So if you're used to seeing Caucasian, you know, if you're used to seeing white faces all the time, as a black person, as a black woman, let's say me as a Gambian woman, I am able to recognize differences in attraction in terms of averageness or sexual dimorphism, like I was talking about before, in white faces. But white people not being in predominantly black spaces, or in, like, let's say if they were to all go to Gambia or something like that, not being in those kinds of spaces all the time, they're less likely to understand sexual dimorphic traits or traits of averageness or whatever in that ethnic group or that race of people, because they aren't exposed to those faces all the time, which is why I say representation matters. Because if you have more people that look differently, or more people, if you're exposed to different racial groups and ethnic groups, you're able to kind of see the differences in beauty based on that specific group of people, not always comparing them to white people. If white people are your only frame of reference, you're gonna just only be comparing them to white faces, and that doesn't work because different ethnic groups have different facial features. That's just what it is sometimes, damn. But anyway, I feel like this wasn't really an afterthought so much as this is more of me talking more about the fact that beauty centers whiteness, and it's just like, but I just think that this conversation, this video is going to be so long. Again, I always say that I'm trying not to talk too much, and the video is like 20 goddamn minutes. Either way, for me, beauty is something that has been very weird in my personal life. I've just like kind of wondered what the fuck is going on with it. Why did I bleep that? I've been cursing this whole time. I've been wondering what the fuck is going on with it. Being a dark-skinned black woman, I've often felt ridiculed and mocked in my own race growing up, and I talked about that in my colorism one. But in white spaces, I often felt very invisible. Being a person that's felt like I've been left out of the conversation of beauty, it's hard for me to even have the conversation because I don't know where to begin. I feel like I'm grasping at straws trying to pick it out, because I'm just like, well, what the fuck is beauty? I've never been defined as a beautiful person, so I don't even know what the struggles are if you are defined as that within the framework of beauty. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. So I can only really talk about it from an outside view in a weird way when it comes to this standard, this Eurocentric standard of beauty. Maybe I'll try and do another video talking specifically about black beauty and the way that has been evolving and changing. And I mean, I kind of did in the colorism thing, but you know, maybe I'll do something like that instead. Maybe that'll help, because this was confusing, and I hope you were able to follow any of this, because I don't know. Next week though, we're just moving on. Next week though, I am really excited because I'm going to be talking about toxic masculinity in the framework of patriarchy. Ooh, we gonna get into it, because there are some books that I've been reading that y'all, this is the one to watch. I'm kidding, I'm not gonna hype it up too much. It might not be amazing, but like, we're quoting Terrence Real a lot. We're talking about political versus psychological patriarchy. Okay, stay tuned for that one. Have a wonderful week. Water your plants, feed your pets, and remember that you can always change your mind. Yes, that's my usual ending. All right, I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.